And here they are, the 1010 tags. You got one, Dan?
Got one here.
Sign up to 1010 and you probably actually won't get one because we haven't got any system for distributing them, but we're going to get that in hand very soon. Dan,
January 1.
how are you going to cut your 10% next year?
I'm going to cut my 10% by actually toning down the heating in my house.
What, that's going to be
10%, that will practically do it. We have a really inefficient house. We're going to put a little bit of insulation around the windows and make sure that we don't heat the corridors. Very simple.
Have you actually worked out the emissions and that would be
Oh, now you're embarrassing me on...
I'm
pretty good already.
I don't think that's going to be a whole 10%.
It won't
I think
be
you
a
need
whole
to do the maths
10%,
a little
it's some
bit.
of it.
It's going to be a little bit more than that. Richard Betts, how are you going to cut your 10%?
I'm going to use the central heating less, so turn it off earlier in the evening and put a jumper on.
Great. Mark Linus, how are you going to cut yours?
Very expensively. The plumbers at the moment are installing 2 solar panels which are going to heat all our water, and we're going to have an air source heat pump to heat the rest of the house.
You're going to cut a lot more than 10% then with that lot.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'll only switch half it on for now.
No, it's all good. I'm going to cut my 10%. It's actually going to be easy because before, I have been a little bit of an eco person. I'm vegetarian, I don't fly on holiday, and I have never had a car, and I never will, and I like cold houses, and I've got lots of jumpers. But then this year, so it was going to be hard for me, but then this year we decided to go to America for the global premiere I was telling you about. So all I have to do is not fly to America, and that's how I'm going to cut my 10%. But the person with the interesting story is actually Lizzie, the producer of the film, who's over here. Lizzie, can we borrow you? Because your story is more interesting. How are you going to cut 10%? Well, first tell me your story of climate change.
Well, I didn't know anything about it, and then I started making a film about it, and it was absolutely awful because I found out far too much about it, and it was horrific.
In 5 years?
Yes, in 5 years. And then it was really hard for me because my family live in New Zealand, my gran was dying, and I missed my best friend's wedding because I became quite an extremist, and I didn't want to fly home at all.
So how are you going to cut your 10%?
Well, I'm in the same position as you in that this year has been quite high with me going to America and Australia for premieres, so my 10% will be easy, but it doesn't solve the moral dilemma of, how do you weigh up your dying grandmother, seeing her one more time against Bangladeshis dying in the future. So it's a really tough one, and I don't have an easy solution.
Yeah. And what, you were saying that your friends also have been reacting in strange ways.
Yeah, well, when I was quite extremist and I didn't fly home at all for 3.5 years.
That's not extremist in this context.
Okay, that's extremist for Kiwis.
That's sensible. How often do Kiwis normally fly home who live in London?
Very often, at least once a year, absolute minimum. But I see my friends at parties and it's always, oh, did I see you in Buenos Aires? Or was it Delhi? Or was it, people are travelling a lot. And so when I stopped flying, people thought it was so serious that they actually stopped and they got really embarrassed about telling me about it. But now that I flew home to see my family and then with the film, they're all just like, sweet, willy-nilly, they're flying everywhere and they're telling me about it, and they're going on stag parties and hen do's.
What,
so
flying, you mean?
Yes.
Flying to a stag party?
Yes, and
oh
I can just...
We're all doomed.
I can just see that, people, they need somebody to lead by example and to actually make those sacrifices.
Well, best of luck with your moral dilemmas.
Thank you.
Get back on your laptop over there. Dan, what's the action of the day that we're asking all the viewers, if there are any viewers left, to do?
Action of the day is pretty obvious. Sign up to 1010. In fact, I challenge you now, get out a notepad, write down all of the organisations, famous people or cultural references in your own society, the people around you. Send them all an email tonight. You can get all of the information off 1010global.org. That's 1010global.org. Sign all those organisations up, and then tomorrow night or at the end of next week, we'll see how many tonnes of carbon we've saved.
So we're basically, the mission over the next week during COP15 is to sign as many people and organisations up, add up all their emissions, and in a way that's the people's contribution to the, I've just thought of this, like the governments are here and the politicians are here making the deal, but if we all sign up and say, look, we are all committing, that's our contribution, is that we're definitely going to commit.
Exactly.
That's rather beautiful.
And it's a hugely strong commitment to be making. You're not just signing a petition, you're actually going beyond that. You're taking responsibility for the parts that you have control over, and you're sending a really strong message here as well.
Right, and you're counting them up.
And I'm counting them up.
Great. Well, that is it for Stupid Show number 2. I've got no idea how long it took. We're not very good with our timekeeping. And we'd just like to say thank you to One Climate, the ever-brilliant One Climate, who are running around what you can't see and I can see, which is very funny. I feel we need a camera shooting this way tomorrow. Is them all scrabbling around with lots of leads. Thank you to One Climate, and tomorrow we're back with lots of exciting interviewees, but you never know who the hell it's going to be because they're all so busy in their meetings that you can't find out till 5 minutes before. And we're not back tomorrow because tomorrow we're having a day off and we're having a singing party, but you're not invited. It's going to be great. And but next week, of course, is the much more important. This was the warm-up. These 2 shows were the warm-up. That's why it was bad. Next week is going to be perfect, physically and emotionally and scripturally. And basically, all of our futures are going to be decided here next week. So I do hope you think that's worth considering and watching. And we're going to leave you with a little message from some children that we filmed here at the Bella Centre earlier this year. And it's a message to our world leaders. See you Monday.
You are all aged 50 or 60, but I'm 9.
I'm 10.
10.
11. 9.
11.
So we will be your age around 2050 or 2060. By then, the world could be totally different.
The temperature could be much hotter, with floods, droughts, famines, and even wars.
Millions of people can lose their homes.
Millions of people could die.
Maybe even billions.
Maybe even everybody. In this room right here in December, you will decide if that is our future, or whether we have a safe world to live in.
At the moment, you're choosing the nightmare.
You say that it's not possible to cut emissions fast enough?
You say that protecting business is more important than protecting the world.
You always blame each other.
It's America's fault.
It's Australia's fault.
It's China's fault.
Some of you even say that climate change isn't happening.
But it is still possible.
There is still time.
You could be the heroes that save everybody.
Or you can be the useless politicians who make the biggest mistake ever.
So please come here to Copenhagen and...
Don't be stupid!